They said family is everything. But what if your family is the reason you can't sleep at night? When I was 8 years old, I learned that love doesn't always come from blood. Sometimes, it comes from the people who choose to stay, even when they don't have to. Back then, home was a small, cluttered apartment that smelled like cigarette smoke and cheap perfume. My mom used to sleep until noon, leaving me to feed my baby sister with watered-down milk and change my brother's diaper using old rags. I remember the sound of her boyfriends coming and going, their laughter, the slam of the door, the occasional shouting that made the walls vibrate. I used to hold my little brother close, whispering that everything would be okay, even though I didn't believe it. The day the teacher noticed my bruises, I knew something was going to change. She knelt beside me, her eyes soft, her voice shaking as she asked, "Sweetheart, who did this to you?" I didn't answer, but I didn't need to. The next day, there were strangers at the door, wearing official badges and calm voices. CPS, Child Protective Services. They said we were going somewhere safe. I remember my mom crying, not because she was losing us, but because she didn't want to deal with the paperwork. That night, we were separated from her, and soon after from each other. At first, I thought the foster homes would be better. They had clean sheets, food that didn't smell like smoke, and people who smiled at me. But those smiles didn't last long. The first foster family didn't like that I was too protective of my siblings. They said I was acting like a parent, not a child. The second family didn't like that I cried at night. By the time I was 10, I had already learned to pack my belongings in silence, ready to leave whenever someone said, "It's not working out." Then came the day I was told I'd be separated from my brother and sister. I remember sitting in the social worker's office, my legs dangling off the chair, staring at the ugly brown carpet as she explained that it's for the best. My siblings were younger and had a better chance at adoption. I wanted to scream. How could they just take them from me? We'd survived together. The beatings, the hunger, the nights where we huddled under one blanket. They were all I had left of my old life. I remember reaching for my brother's hand, but he was already crying in another room. My baby sister. I can still hear her crying, echoing down the hallway as they carried her away. After that, something inside me shut down. I stopped talking much. I stopped asking where they were. Every time I got a new foster family, I pretended to be whatever they wanted. Quiet, polite, invisible. It was easier that way. Then when I was 11, I met them. The family that would change everything. Michael and Sarah, my foster parents. They were different. From the first moment I stepped into their house, I could tell. The air smelled like cinnamon and laundry detergent. There were photos on the wall. Not the fake kind, but real moments. A birthday party. A trip to the lake. A Christmas morning. I remember standing there, not knowing where to put my hands. Sarah crouched down and said softly, "Hi, sweetheart. You must be tired. Let's get you some dinner, okay?" And for the first time in years, I believed her. They didn't try to replace my mom. They didn't make me talk about the past. They just let me exist. Slowly, they taught me what it felt like to be safe. Really safe. Sarah would sit beside me while I did homework. Her presence quiet, but steady. Michael taught me how to ride a bike, how to fall without panicking. It took months, maybe years, but I started to laugh again. And then came the new caseworker. Her name was Ms. Reynolds. She was young, ambitious, and had that kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She'd show up unannounced, clipboard in hand, scanning the house like she was looking for something wrong. She'd ask questions like, "Do you really feel at home here? And wouldn't you like to live with a family that's more like you?" At first, I didn't understand what she meant. More like me? What did that even mean? My parents tried to be patient with her, but I could tell she made them nervous. She was the kind of person who could ruin everything with one report. One day, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, her pen tapping against her clipboard. "You've been here almost a year, right?" she asked. I nodded. "And you're not eligible for adoption yet?" I shook my head. She smiled tightly. "We'll have to look into that." After she left, Sarah put her hands on her hips and said quietly, "I don't like that woman." Neither did I. For months, it felt like Ms. Reynolds was trying to find a reason to move me again. Every little thing became an issue. A missed therapy session, a bad grade, even the way I spoke to her. My parents jumped through every hoop she put up just to keep me safe, but there was always something new. Then, this past January, she came up with something that made my stomach drop. "Reunification," she said, her voice light, as if it were a good thing. "It's time you reconnect with your biological siblings." I froze. The word hit me like a punch. "No," I said immediately. "I don't want to." She tilted her head, pen poised. "Why not?" "Because I don't know them anymore." She smiled, like I was a stubborn child. "They're your family, sweetheart. You'll see. This will be healing for everyone." I wanted to yell that she didn't know anything about healing, that some wounds don't close just because you pretend they didn't happen. But instead, I just nodded, too tired to argue. Over the next few weeks, she arranged preparation therapy, sessions where I had to talk about my past and how I felt about reuniting. It made me sick. I had nightmares again, of being dragged away, of my siblings crying, of my mother's voice calling after us. My parents could tell I was spiraling. One night, Sarah came into my room and sat beside me. I was shaking. "I don't want to see them," I whispered. She brushed my hair back gently. "Then you won't," she said. "Not if we can help it." That was the night they promised to fight for me. The morning after Sarah made that promise, the house felt heavier. Even breakfast was quiet. Michael barely spoke, his jaw tight as he scrolled through emails, probably trying to find some kind of contact inside the system. I didn't ask what he was doing. I just watched him, wondering if any of it would matter. People like Ms. Reynolds always seemed to have the final say. School that day was a blur. Every time someone mentioned family, I felt my chest tighten. When a classmate asked what my siblings were like, I lied and said, "They're great," because it was easier than explaining that I hadn't seen them in years and that I didn't want to. When I got home, Sarah and Michael were sitting at the table with files spread out everywhere. everywhere. Paperwork, emails, and what looked like my entire CPS history. Sarah looked up, her eyes tired. "We're going to try something," she said softly. "We requested a meeting with Ms. Reynolds' supervisor." I didn't say anything, but inside, a tiny spark of hope flickered. Just a tiny one. That week, therapy felt like walking through a minefield. My therapist, Ms. Allen, was kind. Too kind sometimes. She spoke softly, as if every word might break me. "Do you remember the last time you saw your siblings?" she asked one day. I stared at the carpet, tracing the patterns with my eyes. "Yeah," I whispered. "My sister was crying. My brother kept asking where I was going. Nobody told him." "And how does that make you feel now?" I hated that question. How does anything make you feel when you've spent your whole life being told to just survive? Like, I failed them, I admitted finally. She nodded, her eyes glistening. "You didn't fail them, sweetheart. You were a child. You were trying to protect them." Her voice was kind, but it didn't make the ache go away. Then one session later, she said something that made me stop breathing. "Your caseworker told me your siblings didn't get adopted," she said carefully. "They've been through several foster placements. It's been hard for them." My heart dropped. I stared at her, not understanding. "What do you mean, several placements?" "They were separated a few times and brought back together," she said. "Your brother struggled with behavioral issues, and your sister has had a difficult time trusting adults. It was like someone had opened a wound I'd been pretending wasn't there." I pictured my brother, the little boy who used to tug on my sleeve and ask for cereal, now angry and alone in some strange house. And my sister, who'd barely learned to crawl before being taken from me. What had she become without anyone to hold her when she cried? For the first time, I didn't know whether to feel sad or furious. That night, I told Sarah and Michael everything. They listened quietly. When I was done, Michael rubbed his face and sighed. "That settles it," he said. "We're calling her supervisor." 2 days later, they had the meeting. I wasn't allowed in. They said it was for the adults. But when they came back home, I could tell it hadn't gone smoothly. "She wasn't happy," Sarah said, setting her bag down with a thud. "Ms. Reynolds kept insisting that this reunification is in your best interest, like she knows you better than we do." Michael's voice was low and steady, the way it always got when he was angry but trying not to show it. "But her supervisor agreed to review everything. She'll talk to you and Ms. Allen herself." I felt a rush of relief. Maybe, just maybe, someone would finally listen. A week later, I sat across from the supervisor in a small office that smelled like coffee and old files. Her name was Ms. Garcia. She was older than Ms. Reynolds, with tired eyes but a gentler expression. She didn't take notes. She just listened. "Tell me," she said, "why don't you want to be reunited with your siblings?" I hesitated. I didn't want to sound heartless, but the truth was clawing its way out of me. "Because I'm not ready," I said finally. "Because every time I think about them, I remember everything that happened before. The screaming, the hunger, the fear. I can't go back to that." Ms. Garcia leaned back, folding her hands. "You're allowed to feel that way," she said softly. "Sometimes healing doesn't mean reconnecting with the past. It means learning to live beyond it." Her words stayed with me long after I left. That evening, my parents got the call. Ms. Garcia had officially overruled the reunification plan. It was done. I expected to feel happy, and I did for a moment. But underneath the relief, there was something else. Guilt. Guilt that I got to be safe, and they didn't. The next time Ms. Reynolds visited, I could tell she knew. Her smile was sharp, brittle. She walked through the house like she was inspecting a battlefield. "So," she said finally, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "you went over my head." Michael kept his cool. "We advocated for what was best for our child." Her eyes flicked to me. "You don't think seeing your family is what's best?" I swallowed hard. "No, not right now." Her lips tightened. "I would have expected you to want this. They're your siblings after all. Don't you miss them?" The question hit harder than I expected. Of course I missed them. The memories, the laughter, the moments when we were just kids. But I didn't miss the pain that came with it. I didn't miss being the only one holding it all together. Before I could answer, Sarah stepped in. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the steel underneath. "This isn't about guilt or obligation. It's about readiness." And she's not ready. For the first time, Ms. Reynolds didn't have a comeback. She just glared, scribbled something on her clipboard, and left. That night, I sat by my window, staring at the dark street outside. My reflection in the glass looked older than I felt. Tired. Haunted. I wondered if my siblings were looking out some other window, thinking the same thing. I whispered into the night, as if they could somehow hear me. "I'm sorry, I just can't, and maybe one day I would be ready. But not now. Not while the past still felt like a chain wrapped around my chest." The weeks after that felt strange, like the calm after a storm. Ms. Reynolds stopped visiting as often, but when she did, the air in the house would tighten like a rubber band stretched too far. Everyone walked on eggshells around her. Even our dog Milo hid behind the couch when she came. But she wasn't gone. Not really. You could feel her fingerprints on everything. Emails delayed. Therapy sessions suddenly under review. Even my school paperwork got messed up. Sarah tried to hide her frustration, but I could see it in the way she clenched her jaw when checking the mail. "She's trying to make things difficult," Michael said one night after dinner, lowering his voice so I wouldn't hear, but I did. And I felt that same knot of guilt twist inside me again, because I was the reason this was happening. One afternoon, Ms. Allen called me in for an emergency session. Her tone on the phone was careful, the kind of careful that made my stomach twist. When I got there, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Your caseworker stopped by earlier," she said gently. "She wanted to know what we've been discussing in our sessions." I froze. "She can't do that, can she?" "She shouldn't," Ms. Allen said carefully, "but she's still technically your assigned worker. Don't worry, I didn't tell her anything personal, but I thought you should know she's frustrated." Frustrated. That word didn't even begin to cover it. When I got home, I told Sarah. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "We're going to file for a new caseworker." "Enough is enough," Michael nodded. "She's crossing lines. You don't mess with a kid's therapy." I didn't say anything, but inside I felt like running. running away from all of it. The system, the labels, the endless adults making decisions about my life. I'd spent years trying to believe I was safe. Now it felt like that safety was slipping again. A few days later, Ms. Reynolds showed up unannounced. I was in the living room working on homework when I saw her car pull up, that same silver sedan that always made my stomach drop. She walked in like she owned the place, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "Hello, everyone," she said brightly. "Just doing a routine check." Sarah's polite smile was paper thin. "We weren't expecting you today." "Oh, I know," Ms. Reynolds replied, scanning the room. "That's kind of the point." She looked at me. "How are you, sweetheart? Been thinking about your siblings lately?" My throat tightened. I stared down at my notebook, pretending to be focused on the page. "Not really." She scribbled something. "You know, I spoke to your brother's foster mother last week. He's been asking about you." That stopped me cold. "He what?" She smiled faintly. "He remembers you, you know. He said you used to protect him. He misses you." My hands shook. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Don't use him like that," I whispered. Her eyes glimmered, satisfied that she'd gotten under my skin. "I'm just saying, some kids would give anything to have family left to care about them." Sarah stepped forward, her voice sharp. "That's enough." But Ms. Reynolds didn't back down. She just smiled, closed her notebook, and said, "Well, I'll be filing my report. Let's hope we all stay on the same page about what's best for her." And then she was gone, leaving silence so heavy it hurt to breathe. That night, I had the nightmare again, the one where I'm back in that apartment. My mother's yelling, the baby's crying, and I'm holding both of them, trying to keep the noise down before he comes back. But he always does. The man with the belt, the shouting, the sound of glass breaking. In the dream, I try to run, but my brother slips from my hand, my sister fades into the dark, and I wake up gasping. Sarah rushed in when she heard me. Hey, it's just a dream," she whispered, pulling me close. But it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like a warning that maybe Ms. Reynolds was right. Maybe I was running from something I couldn't escape. A week later, Ms. Garcia called. "We're assigning you a new caseworker," she said. Just like that, it was over. When I told Sarah and Michael, Sarah smiled in relief. See, sometimes the system gets it right. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty. Because even though Ms. Reynolds was gone, the things she'd said stuck to me like glue. That night, I pulled out the one photo I still had, a crumpled picture of me and my siblings taken before everything went wrong. My brother's hair was messy, my sister's cheeks were chubby, and I was holding both of them like I'd never let go. I traced their faces with my thumb. "Do you hate me?" I whispered. No one answered, of course. Just the quiet hum of the night outside. Months passed. The tension eased. My new caseworker, Mr. Daniel, was calm and understanding. He didn't treat me like a file to be processed. He treated me like a person. Therapy started helping again. The nightmares came less often. One day, during a session, Ms. Allen asked, "Do you think you'll ever want to see them again?" I thought about it for a long time before answering. "Maybe, someday, but not because someone tells me I should. I'll do it when I'm ready." She nodded, smiling. "That's fair. Healing doesn't come on a schedule." Still, the guilt lingered. I carried it everywhere. To school, to dinner, even into my dreams. Sometimes I'd catch myself wondering what they look like now. If my brother still liked dinosaurs. If my sister still hummed when she was sleepy. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A letter. No return address. No name on the envelope. Just my first name, written in messy handwriting I didn't recognize. I hesitated before opening it. My hands were shaking. Inside was a single piece of paper. "Hey, it's me." The note read, "I think I'm your brother. I found a picture once. The one where you were holding me and our sister. I kept it. I don't know if you hate me, but I miss you. I just wanted you to know that I'm okay. And I hope you are too." My vision blurred with tears. I clutched the letter against my chest, unable to breathe. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel anger. I just felt sadness. Pure and simple. And something else underneath it. Hope. I didn't show the letter to my parents right away. I needed time to process it. That night, I lay awake, replaying every memory. The laughter, the crying, the way his hand used to fit in mine. He was alive. He remembered me, and somehow that was enough for now. I kept that letter hidden for a week. Every night, I'd pull it out from under my pillow, unfold it carefully, and read it again, over and over, like I was trying to memorize every shaky word, every loop in the handwriting. It felt surreal. For years, I'd told myself I didn't need them, that I'd built a new life, a better one, and that was enough. But now, that wall I'd built so carefully had a crack. I found myself wondering things I hadn't dared to before. Was he writing from a group home? A foster family? Did my sister even remember me? Sometimes I'd imagine knocking on their door, seeing their faces again. But then my chest would tighten because I wasn't ready. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Still, I couldn't ignore the letter. It was proof that somewhere out there, a piece of my past was still alive. One Sunday afternoon, while Sarah was baking and the house smelled like cinnamon and sugar, I finally told them. I handed Sarah the letter. Her eyes widened as she read it. "Oh, honey," she whispered, pressing a hand over her mouth. She passed it to Michael, who read it in silence, then looked up at me. "Do you want to write him back?" he asked gently. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. The truth was I didn't know. The idea terrified me. What if he blamed me for leaving? What if he wanted answers I didn't have? "I don't know," I said finally. "I just needed you to know." Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. "You don't have to decide anything today," she said. "Just knowing he's okay. That's enough for now." I nodded, but that night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining what he must have gone through. All those homes, all that uncertainty. I tried to picture him older, taller, angrier maybe. Then I thought about my sister, wherever she was. The guilt returned like a slow, dull ache. I grabbed my notebook and started to write. Not a letter exactly, just words, thoughts, memories. "Do you remember the toy truck you used to sleep with? I used to sing to her when she cried. I never forgot you. Not for one day." When I finished, the page was wet with tears. Weeks passed. Life went on, school, chores, therapy, but something inside me was shifting. One afternoon, Ms. Allen asked me, "Do you think you'd want to see him? Maybe just talk, a letter, a call." I hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Maybe. I don't want to see them because someone tells me I should. I want to do it because I choose to." "Good," she said softly. "That's how healing starts. On your terms." That night, I pulled the letter out again and read it under the warm glow of my bedside lamp. My hand stopped trembling this time. Then I took a deep breath and began to write back. "Hey," I wrote, my pen scratching across the page. "I got your letter. Thank you for writing. I don't hate you. I never could. I was just scared. I thought keeping my distance was the only way to protect us, but maybe I was wrong. I miss you too." I paused, staring at the words. They felt real, honest, raw. For the first time, I wasn't hiding behind fear. I kept writing. "Life's been different for me. I have a good family now. They care about me. Really care. I think you'd like them. I'm not ready to see you yet, but I'd like to keep writing, if that's okay." When I sealed the envelope, my heart felt lighter. Not fixed, just lighter. A month later, another letter came. "I'm glad you're happy," he wrote. "I was mad at you for a long time, but not anymore. I didn't understand then. I do now. I think about her a lot, our sister. She's in a new home. They say she's doing better. Maybe someday the three of us can meet again. No pressure, just someday." I read those words and smiled for the first time in weeks. Because for once, the idea of seeing them didn't scare me. It didn't feel like going back. It felt like moving forward. I showed the letter to Sarah and Michael. They smiled too. Sarah hugged me, whispering, "See? Sometimes love finds a way, even after everything." Spring came, the house filled with light again. I started helping Sarah in the garden, planting little things, tomatoes, basil, flowers I couldn't name. She said growth takes patience, that you have to water something long before you see results. I remember kneeling in the dirt one day, thinking about that. Healing felt a lot like gardening, messy, slow, but worth it. That night, I sat outside on the porch, watching the sunset. The air was warm, the sky fading from pink to gold. I held my brother's second letter in my lap, folded neatly, a symbol of something I thought I'd lost forever. I realized then that maybe Ms. Reynolds was wrong. Family isn't something you force. It's something you earn. Sometimes it's chosen, sometimes it's rediscovered, and sometimes it's both. I looked up at the stars, thinking of them, my brother, my sister, wherever they were. And for the first time in my life, I whispered, "I'll find you, but when I'm ready." Weeks later, my therapist asked how I was doing. I said slowly, "I've finally stopped running." She smiled. "That's a big step." "Yeah," I said. "And maybe one day, I'll take another one toward them." That night, I sat with Sarah and Michael on the couch, watching some old movie. I wasn't thinking about the past anymore. I was thinking about how far I'd come, how lucky I was to be loved by people who didn't have to love me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Maybe my story wasn't about escape after all. Maybe it was about survival, about finding family not through blood, but through kindness, through choice, through the small moments that make a person feel seen. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Family isn't always who you start with. Sometimes it's who helps you finish becoming yourself. And maybe forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about finally being free enough to remember.